Kick it.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
Well, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show. We are happy to have everyone here tonight because we are going over something that we were lucky enough to give samples away of. It's the Mattie Gladden giveaway with Alan and Jolee from Spirits of French Lick. Shane was actually one of the winners. He was lucky enough to stop in here tonight and go over some of the sample with us. Now, this is a lovely bottle. It looks fantastic.
Nice.
I totally dig how you guys are going with this and the new Lee Sinclair label that I saw the other day. It has just a really neat historic feel to it. I know you guys were going for that anyways, but I really
going for like black lingerie. It's what we were after.
You totally missed that one, dude.
Well, I wasn't. I had to. I had to tone down our ads. So
put some elastic down the sides.
Wrap the bottle in a garter. Add some fish.
That's right. Yeah.
Good to go.
Yeah, they're all going to be sold
for hang tag
with garters instead of hang tags. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you got to be 18 for the label, but 21 for the liquid inside.
That's right.
25 to be smart enough to know how to use it the right way.
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
But I just want to thank you, everyone, for stopping in the chat. I saw Mike Wheels. I saw Spencer Mav out there a minute ago. Anyone else is out there, thanks for stopping in early and being on time. We appreciate that. Oh, Whiskey Straight Alley's from across the pond. It's good to see you in here. He's over in England, so that's awesome. I'm glad you're up and you're taking a chance to stop over. Now, is this your guys' first bottled and bond release as far as your distillery goes?
Yeah, this is the first one, man. We had to do, we started out doing weeded products because, just to be honest with you, the distiller likes weeded products. But, we've been telling rye people that we've got stuff coming for them. And if we're going to do a bottled and bond, it's got to be something a little edgy and a little spicy, for the first rollout. So we couldn't think of a better product, and we couldn't think of a better person to name it after, for sure.
Yeah, and before I get into background and I ramble, this is your guys' stuff. Do you want to tell people who Mattie Gladden was? Because I thought she was a really interesting character to kind of name stuff after, even though she was a really cool historical figure. So if you don't want to, I looked up stuff before, and I also got this lovely pamphlet that Jolee is awesome about handing out awesome. You guys, I said it before, you guys are awesome about giving people information, or it's usually right on the website, or it's here it is, and it's like, God, this is so much easier than asking, which I know, like I said, you don't. Otherwise, you probably get harassed like 30 times a day. We both
have really big mouths, so we just enjoy talking a hell of a lot. So, yeah, Mattie is.
We also think we're hilarious. So
right.
There's that going.
Sometimes
on
more than others.
Right.
Sometimes more than others.
For sure. For sure.
I did get Jolee with a good one this morning though. She came back to ask the boss lady something while the boss lady was talking to me, and I just out of nowhere just shut up. And it came off like the meanest thing I've ever said. And I've never seen her just blank and not have any words.
Yeah, I was like I tried to think so quickly of something like smart ass to say, and it was just the way you said it. I was like, oh my God.
Are you serious?
Right? Like, I knew it wasn't serious, but it was still, I don't know, it just caught me off guard. I was very focused and I wasn't ready. I should know that as soon as I walk into that distillery, I should just be like, aces up, like ready to fucking go, ready to do verbal battle at all times.
There is no distillery. There is no H3 room that will from now on be referred to as the Tiger Pit.
Tiger Pit.
Tiger Pit.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So Mattie was she was originally from Salem, Indiana. She was actually, and it's interesting because we've talked about this many times before. Spirits of French Lick isn't just the spirits that are in the bottle; it's the spirits of the local place. Everything we do is very inspired by history and trying to not only rebuild Indiana's distilling legacy, but rebuild some of its lost history, because people have this sort of idea that Indiana is nothing but cornfields and there's nothing to do here, and life is all about what you make it. But there's been some pretty exciting and enthralling things happen in different parts of Indiana over the years. So Mattie was Lee Sinclair's housekeeper, so there's a connection between Lee and Mattie when she was a teenager. She married off fairly young and took off with her first husband down to Tennessee. All these kind of, I guess you would call them vicious little small town rumors, sort of got started after she got married the second time, that she was in Nashville and Chattanooga running a bordello or whorehouse, however you prefer to say that. We live in a very strange PC time, so got to make sure that I offend everybody equally. So long and short of it, she marries a gentleman named Percy Gladden. She moves back to Salem, Indiana. She starts building this beautiful house on Main Street in Salem, Indiana, and all these rumors are sort of circulating. At the time, Salem is kind of a stopover for people who are riding the New Albany and Salem Railroad, which also connected to the L&N, and then went on up to Chicago. So a lot of businessmen were coming through town. And one of the rumors that started originally was that she had been sort of the clandestine lover of P.T. Barnum. Now, we can't prove that, but Mattie certainly got the money for this house from somewhere. And so one of the oral legends that's been passed down is that she was, in fact, sort of his mistress. And at some point in time, he actually paid her off to move back to Indiana. So the other rumor that starts spreading is that this new grand house that she's building, this big Victorian house, is going to be a new whorehouse. And people are denying it, this and that and the other. She's also married to a very flamboyant man, Percy Gladden as well, who was a businessman in town, owned several saloons, and owned the first theater in town. As soon as she gets that.
Listed his occupation on their marriage certificate as cowboy.
She wrote that. He didn't write that. She wrote that.
Oh,
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
Cowboy.
She did it in the census as well. She wrote him down as a cowboy in the census, which is crazy. But
I'm gonna put that as my job in the next census.
Right? Tiger wrangler.
Cowboy.
So as soon as she gets his house built, she the day after, she just opens up for business, right? And of course, her point of view is that she's running this bordello as a place to entertain traveling businessmen. But as everyone here knows, the local guys, I'm sure, were pretty interested in what was happening in the house too. And that was kind of reinforced by the fact that the house had several different hidden passageways throughout it, so that way, if an angry wife came in, the husband could slip out through a hallway or a trap door somewhere, or hide out until she was gone. The town did everything they could to stop her business. And they didn't really there were no real laws against what she was doing. It's just pissing off the local ladies as much as anything. So every time they made a move on her, she would get bigger and bolder. So she started putting these nude Roman statues in the foyer of her house, in the big grand window, and would leave the window open to piss off the ladies. Every time they would have a parade in town, she made sure that she was in the parade. The one picture we have of her, she's in a huge black buggy. She's sitting next to one of her girls that's holding a parasol over her. She has these huge white stallion horses, all black leather riding gear. And I've said this a million times. It's still funny. It doesn't matter how many times I say it. I've never seen a whore on parade, but I would definitely have been at that parade. That would have been a good time, especially in Salem, Indiana. You could do it in Salem, Indiana right now and have the exact same reaction that you had at the time when she was alive. I guarantee
That's
it.
true. That's true.
Anyways, Percy was her third husband as well as her fourth husband. He was not her last husband. Percy and her had a pretty tumultuous relationship that was fairly abusive. When they got divorced the first time, he actually tried to break into her house, and she shot him in the face out of the second-story bathroom window. The only thing that actually saved his life was the fact that she shot through the window ledge, and it slowed the bullet down. It was a .38 caliber bullet. About a year after that, they were married again, so she had something going on for sure. So the house is still there. It's a bed and breakfast. As a matter of fact, guys, it's for sale right now. So if you've ever dreamed of owning your own American whorehouse, there's no better time than now.
Now's your time.
Now's the time.
We know ladies that we can get in there probably. We can probably work out something.
I'll run it.
Right. If it sells bottles,
Fine.
if it sells bottles,
Yeah, I'll be fair. I'm a nice person.
Right.
It'd be funny. Jolee's like, "Excuse me, I have to go take care of the hotel for a minute."
Yeah.
Right.
Like, wait, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you quitting? Nope.
No. Just
got
more
my-
hats. More
He's got a
hats.
side gig,
Yeah.
Side hustle going on.
little side hustle.
Jolee will be working on Monday morning as soon as she's bought the house and got it up and going. She'll have a customer survey about how can we improve our service. What would you like to see us offer on our menu?
Right? I would offer healthcare.
That's
safety,
it. No pay. No
That's
No,
not
yeah.
fair.
Healthcare.
If you
paid
get the
days
syphilis,
off,
we'll take care of you.
sick
Yes.
pay. Yeah, you know how women deserve to be treated.
But yeah, I just thought.
Moving on.
Silence. Pure silence. Nobody
And a
knows
chill
what to do.
filled
We
the
talk
room.
about giving whores healthcare.
It's worked in other countries. How about that?
That's exactly right.
We're
That's exactly right.
I'm just saying, put a pot still in the basement, and I'm there.
That's funny. All right, back to the bourbon.
So we named it after Mattie because we wanted to name a bourbon after a woman. You know, everybody names their bourbon after, you know, dead guys or, you know, old mills or this or that, the other, and we're certainly guilty of that too. But we wanted to name one in particular after a woman, and it needed to be the High Rye because it was going to be spicy. We wanted a woman who could have stood up to any of the men on any of the bourbon labels out there, and have been looked at as just as rebellious and just as important to their local area as any of those guys were. So
I like that. I
Yeah.
really like that.
We've said that before. I like how you pull back to history and like you're like forcing people to not only learn about your whiskey but about the area. So when you go, it becomes more of this like I said, more of like a horror.
damn it, Salem,
tourist thing.
acknowledge you had a whorehouse.
Where I worked across the street, we had one of Green Bay's whorehouses that they did not like to admit was really a whorehouse. They're like, no, this is a bar. I'm like, nope, this was a whorehouse for the traveling football players that that decided to make a few stops. This is what it really was. I was like,
It takes all kinds. Life is hard. The struggle is real, and it gets marginally worse every day.
That's
Alan, would
That's true.
Mattie be the kind of girl to get involved in a swamp fight?
No, Mattie was smarter than that. She would have more than likely have picked a fight if she had two girls that were giving her a problem,
And made them swamp fight?
got them to swamp fight each other while pretending like she was on each one of their sides. You know what I mean? She was a very clever woman, in my opinion.
Or she
So,
would have sold tickets to that event.
probably both.
Right.
Probably both.
you know, aside from shooting someone in the face, she sounds like somebody I'd like to party with.
Yeah, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Businesswoman.
this house, I mean, to the nines. It is absolutely gorgeous.
That's the thing too, right? Is that where did she get the money to do this? Not only was the house extremely extravagant, but at that time, Queen Anne style houses had not yet been brought to the area. So it was all brand new, modern construction for that time. And there was no expense spared. There is a guy that's doing, and we've posted his first,
Mystery Man.
what is it? History Mystery Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's hilarious, but he's gone and done a tour through the Mattie Gladden house and the owners that are there, and they've been really nice to let him in and film with his phone, but it's really cool. Like they show all kinds of stuff, and they've tried really hard to get as many historical pieces back into the house that they could, because some of it was stripped before they took over. And so they would go to old house auctions and pick up pieces that were significant to that time period and put them back in the current house. But there's a lot of stuff that's original as well.
My favorite part of that video was a two-part video, and the second, it was either first or second part, I can't remember. Chris Bundy, who's a local historian who also owns the house, interesting character if you know him, but he kept referring to it as something he called it a bordello a couple times, and he called it something else, and then he tried to say but that's not all that they had here. And then like the history mystery guy was like, yeah, but they were banging, right? He didn't say that, but that's where he was headed with it.
But also, he then referred to it as a. I think he called it a house of ill repute. But the history mystery man called it a whorehouse, like just right off the bat. And the guy, you could tell, was like,
you could see Chris Bundy just like
really uncomfortable with that. We're trying to sell this. Don't say that.
Right. Well, what's awesome is she was, and this is just another little piece of Indiana history for you guys, and we don't have anything named after this in particular yet, but Mattie was really continuing a tradition. Salem, Indiana had a long tradition of this, of people who would they came, I mean, it's middle of nowhere. It's still middle of nowhere, right? But there were a lot of successful people that came from Salem. It was actually known as the Athens of the West at one point in time because they had the Cosi College. But there was a long tradition of people leaving the community, sort of making fortunes, a lot of times in very dubious ways, coming back and then building houses that were very, very, very far ahead of their time. And that was kind of the way that if you wanted to be known as somebody in that community, that's how you did it. You went somewhere, you made yourself, you came back to your community and made yourself useful in some way, for better or worse, for the community. And so she was just the next in a long line of people who had done that over the years.
You know, it makes sense just driving through Salem. You can see some of those houses just right along the main drive.
Yeah. And there are certainly some other characters we're going to delve into in the future that are just as interesting, if not more interesting, and definitely involved in some unscrupulous things to make money over the years. So
Give me 1 second. I will be right back myself. Sorry about this.
That's unacceptable.
Wow.
What is happening?
Kick him out.
Right.
Mike.
Yeah.
I thought we were on a show. God.
Wow. Just
So
up and leave.
Professionalism.
When he comes back, everybody should just be real quiet, staring.
So unprofessional as we talk about a whorehouse.
Right. He moved and we have so much room for activities now.
That's right.
Saw a shadow. Something's going on here.
Yeah.
I'm going with he's murdering the help.
He's yelling at his kid. He put it on mute.
There he is.
Here we go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right, guys, time to stop talking about him.
You can keep talking about me. I forgot to plug in the power.
Did you just
We weren't talking about
pinch your
you at
nipples
all.
before you got back on? Or
Yeah, he
you
does
reach
that.
down and you-
Yeah.
That's
I
his
saw
thing.
that.
Some people say showtime. Some people take a drink. He
He
pinches
just
his
goes
nipples.
straight into the purple nurple.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for a job.
Double at Maddie's.
Maddie would be proud.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Maddie would be
Yeah.
proud.
Good job. Good job, Patrick.
No, I just forgot the power to the computer here, and I figured that was necessary when it said it was getting low. And I didn't want to get cut off in the next 2 minutes, and everyone is like, "Bloop."
It just goes down.
It just goes down, and it's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, no, that was totally me.
I just saw the Mattie Gladden missionary thing, man. Well played. Well played. I see what you did there. I see what you did
Well,
there.
I was going to ask you though. I'm half serious and mostly smart ass, but are you guys going to release this in batches or is this a full release?
This will be a full release.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the plan. This will be,
All right.
and this will be continuing. So, part of the background of this whole thing as well is that we've always strived to get to bottled and bond with all of the bourbons. So, I'm a huge bottled and bond fan. I'm also a huge fan of Heaven Hill, and I've always wanted. My goal has always been to be at a distillery that could kind of, approach distilling like a very small version of Heaven Hill. So being able to get a lot of bottled and bonds out there, aspire for everything to be bottled and bond, at least anything that's not finished and anything that's not, a single barrel or overproof. At some point in time, there will be an overproof version of Mattie Gladden more than likely, and there'll probably be an overproof version of Lee Sinclair. They may be tasting room only, but those are possibilities in the future. But Mattie Gladden will be a continuous every year thing. We made about 3 times as much of it this year. We actually just finished it up last distillation today as what we've made in previous years, because we're trying to, obviously now that we're getting a little more mature, step things up to where they're more consistent production schedule wise and keep them going so that we don't run out as we get into more states. So yeah, it's going to be an all the time thing. This is going to be one of our, I guess, kind of 5 flagship products really. So, yeah.
But that's great though. I really thought so. Now, I skipped this a while ago. Whiskey Street, I was asking if there was an episode of The Simpsons that was based on Mattie Gladden, and I know exactly which episode he's talking about. And I don't know. I'll look into that because there was a lady that came to town, and the house does look really eerily like the house that Mattie Gladden had. Because I've been looking at that. Nothing
Really?
about it.
I want to see it for sure.
I will take a look. Yeah, because it was the
That
one
would be
where
amazing. Simpsons
was-
did it.
Yeah.
like Bart was working the
There
door,
you
and his
go.
grandpa came in, and he's like, "Oh hey," and he's like, "Oh my god," and put his hat back on and just walked back out right after.
But
but-
did the Simpsons do this?
No.
Oh,
Bottle
Look at
number
this.
one. $5,200 on secondary right now.
The whole bottom line is taunting. Just
Bottle
legs
number
everywhere.
2.
Oh.
You'll notice that hers is almost empty. I've not opened this one. This one's special. It's gonna find a new home one day. One day.
For $5,000.
Dollars.
5,000. Yeah.
Might auction it off to charity to pay for the horse. For their
I
healthcare.
brought that shit home and opened it that night. I don't know how bottle collectors do it. Y'all just keep that shit on the shelf, and I drink my bourbon. I drink it. There's no.
Yep.
Now, I will probably get a bottle of Unpretentious just because this was the first project that Alan and I ever really collaborated on the snark, right? It was our pure, this is completely our personalities right here coming out in this label and everything about it. So I probably will get one to save, but I don't know. Honestly, I can't say I would save it. I'm going to save the bottle, but I would probably drink the liquid.
We're
Would
just
you at
slowly
least-
hijacking this show, but you know what's really funny? When I did that hand
our
sanitizer rant,
show.
when I was drunk and I did that hand sanitizer rant, that's what I was drunk on. Whiskey.
That was the best. That was the best rant. That was the best rant.
I was
People
feeling
are
it for sure.
Can you believe he's doing this? And I was like, yeah, these people are assholes. I don't know who fucking hoards sanitizer in a pandemic. These people
Also,
deserve to be yelled
Have
at.
you fucking seen me? I mean,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect anything less. I love your rants.
You know what, too,
I'm glad
is
somebody
that
does.
there was question as to whether the people who really needed to hear this would hear that rant. And to that, I say you have no idea how small towns work, because the next day,
Right.
people were apologizing to us for hoarding their fucking sanitizer and for selling the sanitizer that we gave them for money. We gave it to them for free. So yeah, the people who needed to see it saw it, and it was good. So, and we got the nursing home or whoever, gas station or whatever it was that was hoarding it. We got the employees the personal protection equipment that they needed to do their jobs at the time. So good job, Alan.
I'll tell you one thing that I thought that's been really cool is all the distilleries stepping up with sanitizer and
Yes.
all that. I mean, just here locally, Cardinal Spirits has just been rocking that stuff out.
Yeah. Yep.
And
And
that's
that's
what we all had to do. I mean, because, and I've talked about
Yeah.
this many times before, but it's true. A distillery 150 years ago was looked at as part of the local food shed. It was indispensable. Even if you did not drink, you wanted that resource there for when things got bad. And I think that the one good thing that's come out of this whole ordeal is that people now, even people who don't drink to some extent, can go, hey, I'm glad they were there. You know, I'm glad that we had a local one here that could take care of us, that could do things. And, you know, if you ever ended up in a real bad situation in the United States, and hopefully, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, you're going to be glad there's a distiller down the road. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
well, and we didn't distribute like Cardinal. Bless them. They've been selling it to the general public. We were not making it on that level. And so what we made, we distributed to 3 local hospitals, all EMTs, sheriffs from Marion County, which is where Indianapolis, where their rates were skyrocketing. They drove all the way down to get, like 10 5-gallon buckets filled. We did it for the nursing homes, for the local gas stations. We did partner, the last batch that we made, we partnered with the local French Lick Resort in West Baden, so that their big reopening weekend over July 4th, they were able to give all of their guests sanitizer. But for the most part, I mean, it went to post offices, including Crane Naval Base. Like I said, hospitals, emergency management systems. The first batch went to our local police station. So it was all just emergency management for the most part, and then healthcare workers.
Jesus Christ.
Listen, fuck you. You were the one that talked the whole time about whatever. And you already told me to shut up once today, so this is
Shut
my
up.
job.
That's twice.
Want to make it 3 times?
Go for it.
Go for it. Swamp fight.
My
Yes.
headphones are
Like-
awesome.
Those headphones. He is like,
Yeah.
yes, Kevin Rose. Thank you.
There's been so much weed smoked underneath these headphones between my dad and myself over the years.
You're like Princess Leia with those fucking headphones.
Listen, you have not lived life until you have heard Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl
Listen.
through these headphones.
Hey, I was
My
gonna say,
older
you look,
brother
you
had those headphones.
That's true.
look,
Alan,
you look like you're ready
right
to lay
on
down
that.
tracks on drums in the studio.
Right.
Yeah.
My older
The
brother
Rush
had those
2112
headphones.
for Kevin Rose out there. That's the other one.
The what?
Burn that thing up. Rush 2112.
Oh,
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not a Rush fan.
Mm.
I can't.
God.
I don't have the
I'm
attention.
done.
Listen,
I'm out.
Yeah, we're out.
I don't
got no
have the
attention.
attention span to listen to a 45-minute song. I'm sorry, I don't.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Hey, I'm wearing a Ramones shirt. Usually, if it's 3 minutes, it's too long for me.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Especially live, they're about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the set. It's about a minute and a half.
I grew up. My older brother listened to Rush all the time in those exact headphones with the curly Q cord, and he had them blasting out of his room. So I'm very familiar with them, which is how I know they're not for me. It's not like I'm one of those people that just like, I don't like that, and you don't know. But
They do have a downside, and the biggest downside is that when I'm wearing them and you're on a podcast, it's like you're right fucking here.
It's true. I mean, let's see here. Oh, going back to
talking
like
shit, Bishop.
yeah, that's what happens on this show. You know that. Just spit it back. Our buddy Mitch was saying if you do ever want to tour at Heaven Hills, let him know. He does work there, so he can.
Yeah.
What?
Definitely.
Yes.
Hook me up. For sure. I would love to be going on.
If you want a tour, yeah, we want a tour.
You weren't invited.
I invited myself. This is my show just as much as it is yours tonight.
They're all getting fed up with us. We're going to get kicked off of the show here in a minute, Jolie.
No.
It's
They're not
coming.
going to invite us back. All of a sudden, the screen goes blank.
Right.
I'm just bump out my power cord.
I was just going to
It really
say, Patrick's just going to unplug. Everything goes dead. You can blame it on Big Red. It's fine.
No, but yeah, this is. I didn't want to miss anything, so I went back. But yeah, I was gonna say we were thinking about going out to a tour with Mitch at some point too. So it's, it'd be well worth it with what he's doing as long as he stays there.
Yeah. I love Heaven Hill. I used to joke that for a long time, Heaven Hill could legitimately just go ahead and put a tax on my check. It would have made life a lot easier, and I would have had much less to explain to my wife. They could put it right next to the Disney tax, so I wouldn't even notice that it was coming out. It'd be less painful.
What do you want taken out of your check before it gets to you? Well, I need to have an allowance for this much every month that just goes. Just send it to him. Just give it to him.
Right?
Let him have my bottles at the door when I come pick them up. There'll be
Right.
6 or 8 set aside for me. It'll be great. But
Oh.
I am.
Alan, what's the rundown on the mash on this whiskey?
So it's a really interesting mash bill. It's 55, 35, 10, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So 55 corn, 35 rye, 10 malt. So in my opinion, there's a lot of debate about what constitutes a high rye bourbon. You can argue that 20% is fairly high, but I mean, the wheated bourbons are typically 20% wheat. So if you're really going to go high rye, in my opinion, 30 or better. If you really want to push that rye character to the forefront and let it override the corn. And then the malts on that first batch, we use a lot of brewer's malts. So that was Victory malt and a little bit of, and I'd forgotten about this, so I went back to my notes when we started running this last time. Victory and a little bit of aromatic malt So that's where you get some of that kind of drier, biscuity sort of flavor, and some of that almost caramelized, nutty sort of flavor definitely comes from that brewer's malt. I love brewer's malt. To me, the most boring thing in the distillery is distiller's malt. It literally has one job, and that's to convert starch into sugar. There's nothing sexy about it whatsoever. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, so we love playing around with those different brewer's malts. Matter of fact, we switched production day when we finished up the last batch of Mattie Gladden for this year. We had a little overrun, obviously, doing bottled and bond, so we had like 3 batches that fell in July. Those will become single barrels more than likely, but we switched over to what will be our bottled and bond corn whiskey, which is 90% corn, 90 corn and 10 chocolate malt. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's
That sounds good.
we've got, I think, one more year, a year and a half roughly left before we can do a bottled and bond of it, but it is coming. So
I found I like the chocolate malt and the caramel malt and some of the stuff that it's starting to show up in, and
Yeah.
I really like the way that's starting to play into stuff. So,
and you'll see a lot of caramel malt from us between Lee Sinclair and then the relaunched version of the Weeder, which is William Dalton. Those both have caramel malt in them. I love caramel malt. Just the aromatics of it are absolutely gorgeous, and the way that it plays off of the mouthfeel with creamy mouthfeel, as Jolee likes to say.
It's an industry term.
With the wheat in particular, works out extremely well.
so does it upset Alan in general, since it's an industry term? Just
No, like the first time I heard it,
Listen,
I was like, "The
it's
fuck?"
hard.
Like,
It is hard. It's hard to be both a Luddite and attempt to be an iconoclast at the same time in an industry where success is expected. Okay? It's not easy. I am slowly dwindling down the list of possible distilleries that will hire me in the future.
yeah, no, I heard that term and I was like, "That don't ever say that again." That's like the word moist. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. But then people talk about it, and so I think on the front of the
it's
Mattie
hard not
bottle.
to talk about it, you know.
Yeah, well, I think on the front of the Mattie bottle we put velvet mouthfeel.
I tried to, if you remember, I tried to put the phrase velvet glove in the descriptor, and you made me not do that.
I think that's when we decided to put the velvet mouthfeel in there. 'Cause
Right.
It's an industry
You look-
term.
You looked at me and you're like, no.
Not happening.
we came up with 1 or 2 ads that I think I got told no to too.
And they entertained us.
Patrick's first advertisement for this show was like
It was in.
you were like,
I don't know, but had something to do with, I don't know. But Mike and Ben helped me. I just knew that both of them were like, this is really on the edge, and I think I better
was
clear
like-
it before I post this shit.
he was like, "Is this okay?" And I'm like, maybe it's a little too hooker forward. Like,
Yeah, I had the whole concept of the whore from Young Guns 2 riding naked on the horse when she walks out and tells the city of White Oak, "You can kiss my ass," and that's and had that as Mattie Gladden on there. But
He's like, no, we're not even
Bo
submitting
Cumberland,
that.
there are great ideas happening right now if you're listening, buddy.
right?
Joey, I just want you to know that the term "whore forward" is going to be stuck in my brain now.
That would be a great shirt for the distillery.
Right? Forward.
Yeah.
Or your new hashtag.
I'm gonna.
Oh
now
God,
whenever I do my
Alan! It's a new hashtag. It's a new hashtag. Horror
Mattie
forward.
hashtag Mattie Gladden is moist.
Ew.
Oh,
Too much.
You ruined
too
it.
far?
You ruined it.
Sorry.
too forward.
Too forward.
Mitch was wondering, do you use enzymes in your corn whiskey since you use chocolate malt?
We do use enzymes for the corn whiskey. Now we do use them. We also, so that got reformulated here recently, and the only reason I didn't tell the entirety of the mash bill is because I can't remember it off the top of my head. When we first started, it was a pure enzyme product. Now that we've reformulated everything, there is some distiller's malt in there in order to get the conversion with the chocolate malt. But originally, yes, it was enzyme forward, but we were always trying to use them in a way that was somewhat inefficient. I've ranted on distillers' technical stuff several times about my absolute hatred of enzymes, especially in pot still distillation. You can get away with it with column still distillation, but in pot stills, there's a lot of there are a lot of off flavors that some of those artificial enzymes can cause, and people, you can use them if you're using them inefficiently. It's people who think that they have to, use them to where they're getting 100% conversion all the time and converting everything. Let me tell you that one of the big differences between pre-prohibition bourbon and bourbon now, flavor-wise, is the use of these enzymatic enzymes, or these artificial enzymes that are breaking down things that distillers were never able to break down before, things that aren't intended to be broken down into alcohol, and then the poor separation of those off flavors, as they were, those congeners from the rest of the matrix. So, press my dork button.
Brian Murphy says whore forward is a new term, in industry term. And with the way some people advertise, I could see that maybe working its way in, because sometimes you're full of shit. You're totally lying about everything you're doing. But I like the way you're lying. Like you're doing really well, but I totally know you're fibbing.
I want to find a way to. I want to work that into my vocabulary every day, some way. Whore forward. That phrase.
That's right.
That's going to get used.
That could be something that's favorable to the consumer.
Sure.
About the marketing conversation and about the lies in the marketing conversation is, like, even if you're trying to make fun of it and poke a stick at it, just like we did with Unpretentious, there were people who legitimately thought that those secondary market prices were an actual thing. There were people who thought that the $42 that I tagged it at was per pour of Unpretentious. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't correct any of them because it's too damn funny. And some of them
let that go, man.
Yeah.
So the funniest thing happened a couple of weekends ago. I was working in the front, which if we're short-staffed, I'll go in on a Saturday and help out. And one of the hostesses comes up to me and was like, I have to tell you this. And she was like super serious and not freaked out, but like everything was urgent. And she goes, somebody just told me that this bottle is going for $4,000 on something called the secondary market. And I just looked at her and I was like, yeah? And she goes, you knew about this? And I said, yeah, I knew. Like, I didn't know. And so then I had to run back and I had to tell. Well, it turned out one of our bartenders told her, because our bartender was paying attention to the social media and the bartender thought it was real. So that was part of the Unpretentious thing and playing into the secondary market. And he was like, he seemed disappointed. He was like, oh.
He popped his balloon.
I know. I was like, hilarious. She was, her face, you guys. She's younger and she was like, oh my God.
My mind would have gone to, why don't I buy 3 bottles and then I can sell them later today? This would be great.
The staff bought cases. They pitched in together and bought cases.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the whole story behind that. So
they purchased 2 or 3 because they're hilarious, but
right. They're amazing.
Yeah. We're down to today it was 11, and I know we sold at least a case off the shelf today, so we've got 10 cases left. That's it.
Cool.
That's really flying.
I
mean,
yeah.
And I know Ben and Mike and I were talking about this. We love how you approach that whole release. Like it was just fantastic to watch and like laugh as it went on. You're like, oh, now it's up to $2,500 and $3,000, $4,000, and I'm like, someone's following this. Someone just bought one and is like, well, I'm going to try to sell it this afternoon on the secondary market and put it up and be like, well, what did you get?
Right.
That's legitimately, that's why I've not opened bottle number 1. First of all, it's the only bottle number 1 I've ever had, even of my own stuff, because we always take them to the graves or to the people who do reenactments of the people that we name them after, etc. But it's because one day maybe it'll be worth a couple $100s that I can give to a charity or something that needs it. There might actually be some levity to the fact that we did that the way that we did it, and if that can help somebody in the future that needs it, cool. Why not?
Yeah,
that was just brilliant, though. I love this whole marketing behind that.
There's more coming. So much more. Once we saw how this went over, we were like. I called Jolee and I said, if I knew it was this easy just to like get that much attention from the bourbon industry, screw these historical names. We'd have been doing this from the get-go.
Yeah, we've got some great ideas. So it's we like to do hashtags too. I was talking to Kevin Terrell about this. He's a photographer that stopped by and hung out with us a few days ago, and he's become a friend of ours. But he was like, when I first saw you guys, I thought they use way too many hashtags, and I was like, no, like that's part of the joke. Like it just, I don't know. I mean, the marketing.
You gotta wait till after the credits to get the scene for the next movie. Damn it!
There you go.
And is that Kevin? Kevin likes whiskey, like from down by Atlanta.
Yes.
He's really. I really enjoy some of his reviews and other stuff too. So
yeah,
cool.
he's a phenomenal photographer too, and so it was so fun to just have him hang out. And he did some shots of them grinding in the morning, and so we got some great shots of that he's going to allow us to use for social media. And like I would love to have him shoot product, but I can't afford him. So I was like, I'll send you product, and then whatever you do with it is up to you. But yeah, he's a good dude, and we hung out with him pretty well all day, and got him drunk, fed him. He said he was still a little too buzzed to drive, so he had to have a little nap in his truck before he. And then he went and shot pictures of the Rick House, and then he could go home. But
Sounds like a good day.
yeah, right?
That's always a good sign of being at a distillery when you're like, it's time to go home. I'm going to need an Uber. I'll pick up my car later. Like, I went overboard in the best possible way. I went overboard today.
We always try and give food and water and do the whole thing, but also it's like, oh, try this. Oh, try this.
Well, I get excited about it when there's somebody there, because like I only really go in to check the barrels maybe a couple times a year, because in the summertime a lot of times they taste terrible, and in the middle of the winter they taste terrible. So really fall and spring are about it. But so then I forget what we had. I forget all the goofy shit that we did the first 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, oh, shit, I don't even remember making that, And
There's
then I
so
have
much
to
of
get
it.
in there. Right. Lots of one-offs.
Yeah, you guys mentioned, I forget, it was someone's barrel around Christmas. I forget their name. But there was a special barrel you guys brought up before where like a worker.
Fubar.
The Fubar, yeah. I was going to say, I'm like, I should remember the name. Yeah. And I was like, that's awesome that you guys, we're just going to keep this and set this off to the side, and hopefully we don't forget about it, because
Tango and Cash, or as I like to call it, the Expendables prequel.
That's its name. It will be released as Fubar, and it won't ever be duplicated, because even the employee that fucked it up doesn't know what he did. And it tastes,
I don't know the exact match bill.
It tastes good.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a guess. Like because he put the wrong thing in, and yeah.
He didn't just mess this up a little bit, guys. I mean, this
it was
you
like
have fucked something up worse if you tried compared to what this boy did. But the fact that it turned out the way that it has, and it is delicious, I wish I knew what we had done. But I literally have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's the worst crime. Now he doesn't know exactly what he did, so he can't replicate it.
Now he's not there anymore.
Right.
He didn't make it much after that day. It was
It was that was pretty. It worked out in our favor, but it could have very, very much not worked out in our favor.
I will say this for the boy. I like him, and I still consider him a friend, and he didn't get fired over that. He actually left on his own accord. But he was the single most frustrating person I've ever worked with, and the single most entertaining person I've ever worked with. I couldn't be pissed off at him because he was so damn funny. You know what I mean? He would do something just absolutely asinine and stupid. Nothing dangerous, just something stupid like Fubar. And he'd just be like, yeah, man, I don't know what I did. Okay, cool.
So is he going to get bottle number 1?
Oh yeah, he'll get bottle.
Oh, we should. That'd be a good idea.
Yes, dude.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
That seems appropriate.
Yeah.
And I've worked with some doozies. When I worked in Louisville, there were a couple of them that were Oh, I'm not even gonna go down that path, but yeah.
There's always some of those people that you work with like that. But no, it's fun when you meet someone like that. But yeah, you made it sound like there's a few barrels hidden around places that are definitely worth tapping into at some point.
Oh my
There are
god!
some-
Homeboy just found some fucking barrel the other day that he didn't even know what it was, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. I had this whole thing. It's 165 proof, and you drink it. It's fucking delicious." You didn't know it was there. How long did you forget that it was there? Like 2 years?
About 2.5 years. Yeah, it was.
Like what?
What's so funny is you guys will get a kick out of this, and any distillers or potential distillers will laugh at this harder than anybody else will. What's funny is it's a blending component, okay? So it's not even been in an actual like bourbon barrel or whiskey barrel. We had this product called multi-grain whiskey, right? 7 different grains, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting. It's going to be a Solera thing. We're not going to do any more of it. And it's really good, but it takes a very long time to age. And so much like Seagram's used to do, and still they do in cognac, I was making basically what you would think of as like an extract sort of thing, right? So I took some multi-grain whiskey, and then they had the winery had some Norton barrel staves, right? And I put the barrel staves in there. I forgot that I had this barrel. It was sitting in the corner. It's been there for like 2.5 years, so it's super extracted. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be shit when I open it. It's going to be terrible, right?" The drink on its own.
So fucking good.
I open it, and then I let her try it. Kevin Rose tries it. Who else has tried it? There's been a couple people, and they've all loved it. And I've been like,
Rick Brenner tried it.
I hate you guys. I hate you all. I hate you.
So good. I want to call it the Blue Barrel. Because that's what it's been
I'd like
in.
to try that barrel.
A Blue Barrel.
It's interesting for sure. So we'll do
It's
something
really
with
good.
That's neat.
It needs to be blended with something.
Mitch has got one more question.
But-
He's like, you guys use pot still, or you use pot stills, you use heirloom grains, and 8 enzymes. What is your actual bushel per proof gallon yield, and how are you not bankrupt?
We are.
Okay, so
Personally.
the first part of it is the reason that we're not bankrupt is because we have a winery, and that pretty much has cash flowed everything. The other reason is because the integrity of which we approach the process. So, in other words, as you can tell here, we're not going to lie to you about anything. We're going to be completely open and honest with you, and I think that endears a lot of people to us. It has certainly endeared people to us that in the industry that we would not have expected it to have done as such. But it's worked out. So the bushel yield roughly, you're looking somewhere around 4.5 to 4 3/4 bushels. Listen, you can still get a lot of yield not using artificial enzymes. You're just not, the couple of gallons of extra alcohol that you're going to get from using those artificial enzymes is not alcohol that you necessarily want on a pot still. The other beautiful thing about a pot still is that we really don't waste hardly anything. So on the pot still, even though it's a batch system and you're looking at multiple days to make a batch, when we do our stripping runs, we're not taking anything away from it. So we're collecting everything off the stripping run. When we do our doubling runs, we're making 4 different cuts. The only thing that really gets wasted is the 4 shots, the very first stuff that comes off. If we're dealing with whiskey, we'll actually take our small amount of heads, and we use very specialized yeasts that don't produce a lot of SO2 or H2S, so we get a much smaller heads cut. We don't get as much acetaldehyde, etc. And that little bit of heads that we get, we can actually rerun through the pot still again, break it down with heat over time, esterify it. So all of that gets reused at least 5 times before we dump it and start over. And if we're going to run a product, say 30 times, if I'm going to run Mattie Gladden 30 times in a season, I'm going to rerun those tails all 30 times because that's actually where a lot of your flavor is at. It's where a lot of your consistency is at. It's where a lot of your esters and phenols are at. So there's very little waste. But yes, I agree with you. We have taken the hard road to distilling without a doubt and have done it in a very antiquated way. But it works for us.
That's
So,
why
at
our
least for
shit
right
is
now.
so good.
But it is a pain in the ass. It is a pain in the ass. Not gonna
Just
lie.
saying.
Not gonna lie.
All right, we're coming up on almost an hour, so I figure maybe the 3 or 4 of us that are just just starting to said we'd have a live tasting. I figured maybe we should give some notes on this between Mike, Ben. You guys can give notes too, but I figured, at least that might be fair to the people watching. Otherwise, I'm just going to taunt you guys with the bottle. Oh, see this bottle.
Right. No, this is the part that's
Nice
fun.
looking bottle.
This is the part that's fun for me and Jolee, I think, because I've told people before, I don't like to give tasting notes to groups most of the time, because taste is such a sensory thing and it's individualized. So I like hearing what other people have to say about it, good or bad. That's the whole thing. That's the only way that we can, improve anything that might need improved. It's the only way to know if we're on the right track, right? So you guys are discerning palates. You guys certainly know bourbon, and you probably know bourbon in a more intimate way than most distillers honestly do. So because we tend to be very biased about things.
Mitch just wants to be sure he was just busting balls. He wasn't really trying to be mean.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. It's all good. There's no Facebook post coming. I promise.
But we do want that tour.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
That's how you can apologize.
Jolee said that, and remember, you didn't invite her. I'm being nice to you, and she's being rude.
I invited myself. I'm happy to say it out loud several times. I will be there.
I've actually picked a date, and it'll be the 17th, and
That's
we'll
right. Talk to your employer. Tell him we'll be there.
Oh.
I'm a lot nicer than Alan anyway, so I promise you'll end up liking me better in the long run.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Why do you think I call you? Do you know why I call you in the evenings? It's not to discuss anything. It's because I get tired of talking to my damn self.
You just fucking hate yourself so much.
Right. I kind of think sometimes that like I'm living in some sort of Matrix world where you don't actually exist. You're actually like a figment of my imagination that I've created. You're like my Jungian feminine side or something,
Yes. Yes. Be nice or I'm going to shoot you in the face.
It's a really unique rhetorical sounding board, man. She just threatened to shoot you.
It's true.
But it does play with the whiskey we're drinking, so that's pretty fair.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the second time we've heard someone about getting shot in the face tonight. So.
Well, that's why I figured it was appropriate, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about Mattie Gladden.
It's probably a good thing you didn't put that on the label. Mattie Gladden is a shot to the face.
That's right.
Right.
You don't like
I don't
it?
know. That might be a pretty good
Shoot you in
selling
the
point.
face.
There's more than one meaning there.
Yeah.
See, one of the other things I didn't mention on that question too that I think is interesting as well is that we also the other way that we don't go broke, luckily, is that we've also never planned on being a 50-state product necessarily. So, we roughly know the kind of size that we want this to get to in the number of states, and kind of hitting some of those underserved states as well. There's something to that. Even if not everybody gets it in every state, if there are people who want it, they'll certainly seek it out. So that helps. We don't have plans for world domination yet.
There's
right
mules
now.
that live in every state. Stuff gets places. Samples get sent out. So.
Yeah, we need an Indiana mule.
Right.
All right.
So we got.
Go ahead. Sorry, Alan.
I was just going to ask you what you guys think, because I'm curious, guys.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to let you guys, being the host, I get to wait to go to last, and let you guys go first.
I didn't
make sure I'm not full of shit.
I didn't open any of it until tonight. I didn't even sneak a sniff like somebody else did, but just somebody that's not anything to do with Mattie Gladden either. But I just. I mean, the nose on it is so nice. I mean, there's just the grain on it, and then there's like a brown sugar on a buttered oatmeal on the nose, and then a little bit of chocolate, and then we're picking up a little bit of apple too, just like a strong apple at the end, and a warm, freshly sliced bread.
Nice.
Awesome.
Those are great tasting notes, and I will tell you that there are a couple of things that you said there that are definitely house characteristics of several of our whiskeys. That sort of idea that Scotland has the idea of the character of a distillery, and we certainly have a character that we've developed, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
for me the nose right off the bat when I first poured it. It's it's really grain forward. It's really mash forward. And it immediately reminded me of like just fresh baked bread right out of the oven that somebody just slathered honey and butter all over. That was just right off the top. And as it spent time in the glass, it's really opened up, and more of the rye character, I think, is starting to come forward in it. There's a little hint of anise or licorice to it.
Yep.
More than a little.
There's more brown sugar, a little bit of a caramel apple, almost like what you get at a fair, a caramel covered apple, candy apple. And then on the palate, it's just freaking amazing. You guys are talking about the velvet mouthfeel, but it's really chewy to me.
Yes.
The whiskey is it's creamy, it's thick, it's just got almost a chewy texture. Reminds me of really almost drinking more of a cask strength in that sense, in the way that mouthfeel comes across. Alcohol burn wise, I'm going, no, this is not 100 proof, because to me, it drinks a lot easier than that. But the feel of it was completely like, holy crap, this is like a 60, 65 proof. It's just coming in, or percent. It's just coming in that really heavy, oily kind of way. And the flavors, man, you get hit. Mike and I were talking about, there's this like a menthol cool that just hits you on the tongue right off the bat. It's not like a taste of menthol, but it's this cooling effect. And then you immediately get hit with this tingle all over your tongue and cheeks. You get a nice hug after the swallow. And it's just, you've got all these notes of rich molasses. You've got the bread notes. There's cinnamon. I would even say a little bit of ginger and clove coming in on the back end, and then you got that
Definitely
rye spice
ginger,
just kicking in. It's just gorgeous, man. The more I'm drinking this, the better and better it gets. It's
you said something about oily. I mean, just tonight working on this glass, the residue on the sides of this glass. I mean, the oil is just stuck to it.
What's awesome is you guys are on these tasting notes, you guys are hitting a lot of the things production value wise that we do very purposefully that make us a little different, I think, from a lot of other distillers. So some of the things that you said so far directly tied to the fact that we use 2 different yeast strains in particular. Some of the other things, the oiliness in particular, is because on this high rye, we dive down into the tails just a little bit. To get some of that oily character, that sort of anise / fennel thing is also from the tails as well. So, you guys are doing a way better job on these tasting notes than I ever could have. I can tell you that. So,
when Shane mentioned it, really my glass looks like your windshield after it rained, like the next morning. Like it hasn't even come down. There's just splotches all around of like leftover stuff on the sides. Yeah.
Do you guys have it sneak back up on you afterwards?
Yeah, there's especially after that initial taste, and then the flavor comes back up, and then I had with the like a cinnamon apple crisp, and then just after it was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 sips, could have been 30, at this point, but it coats and just sits there, but it's not there obnoxiously. It's there just like, I'm just reminding you, which I guess it's another Mattie Gladden thing, reminding you had a good time just a little while ago. You've got a glow.
One thing I'm loving
that
is
after Mattie glow.
One thing I'm loving is that as it spends more time in the glass, there's more fruit coming forward. I'm getting a little bit more apple. I'm getting almost like a blackberry jam, and there's some stewed peaches coming out in the nose and the palate. And then this is a freaking killer for me on the finish. After about a minute or so's gone by, I've got this tobacco cigar ash kind of note coming in on the finish for me that I'm a big cigar guy, and I'm just loving that right now.
That's that victory malt and that aromatic malt. That's where it plays at.
And I've been trying to place that, and you're exactly right. That is definitely cigar ash sort of flavor.
No, I dig
trying to place that.
When the heat kind of kicks up for like a split second, that's when you start getting the rye spice heat. So like if there is like a little alcohol burn, it's hidden amongst that. And you guys did a nice job, because for me it's just enough black licorice anise, and then it kind of disappears. Because Mike and Ben both know that that's what can ruin a rye for me, is if that's just so, I don't know, so in there. Just it's just not my jam. I'll respect something, but I was gonna say a lot of times that can turn down a rye for me. But this kind of comes like right up to the edge. It heats up and then it fades away, and like they said, it's mash bill forward, where you're not getting a ton of the oak and everything because of the way you guys do it with just the toasting and the number 2 char. I think that plays really well to the flavor profile you're going, and I think I'm starting to realize that might be one of the underlying factors between them, is kind of the way the barrel starts playing an effect on all the whiskeys you guys are doing. Right, and I'll take the anise fennel over top of dill any day, because it's one thing that there were 2 things I very purposely tried to avoid with both the high rye bourbon and the rye whiskey that'll be coming later this year or early next year, and dill was one of them. And then that kind of, and I know some people really like this. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not going to name any producers, and I understand why people like it, but some of that almost medicinal black cherry thing I'm not a big fan of in high rye bourbons or rye whiskeys in particular. I get why people like it, but man, if I want to drink Robitussin, I just drink Robitussin.
I can understand that.
The other thing, that Mattie Gladden Afterglow has a different name when you get older. That's actually just a leg cramp, guys.
It is the term toe up.
Right.
Co-turling calf cramp there.
That's
It's
right.
like a leg cramp for your mouth.
There's a T-shirt for you.
That's right.
There you go. It's like a leg cramp for your mouth. I gotta write these down.
So this isn't related. Well, it's related to your spirits. Have you ever thought about making a Starka?
Yeah, there are a lot of things.
What is that, Mike?
It's like a barrel rested vodka, but traditionally Eastern Europeans they would make one and then bury the barrel and save it for a event in the kid's life, and so then you'd get it back out. And actually, no. So our good friends at Iron Root, they did one, and they was just like, let's just do one little thing, and then realized how good it was, and it's freaking delicious. I mean, it's just
Robert
like
Licorice. I'm going to need you to stop one-upping me all the time.
Well, but they're
Iron Root's got to go.
No, it's just like this, just thick coating in your mouth with it. It's so good, but they don't have their other stuff out yet. They're supposed to start making it again, but you would probably make one hell of a Starka.
There are a lot of those things that I really want to play with, and again, there's a lot of one-offs that are back there that I think will surprise people when they see them. We have an American-style poachine. We can't call it that now, but basically an Irish moonshine that we sort of split the difference between our traditional Irish moonshine and modern Scottish whiskey. But there are a lot of things that I would love to do. It's finding an outlet. I love the things that Iron Root Republic does. I respect the hell out of them, and I love the things that they do. I think it's really cool, and that they have a market for it. And then another guy that nobody talks about, Stephen Osborne up in New York, Stout Ridge. Man, he gets to do so many cool stuff, so many cool things, but it's, he's also in New York where he can move it a little easier. But I'm the kind of guy that I literally was into a multi-year project, just breaking down chartreuse and seeing if I could find a way to replicate it. And it's never going to have any economic value whatsoever. Or one
you
time
are
we had
such a fucking nerd, dude.
Oh, I am.
Really are.
We had somebody
a year on chartreuse.
The senior LPGA wanted a cinnamon whiskey, right? And of course, we don't do any liqueurs. And this is when we first started. And I was really arguing with one of the owners at the time about I'm not doing that because I think it's stupid. And so I was like, I'll develop a cinnamon whiskey. And we developed a really nice cinnamon whiskey using actually the Mattie Gladden White Dog as the base. And but economically, it was stupid to even spend the time to do it. I mean, I know how to do it at this point in time naturally with just like a gin distillation, but I don't know that in Indiana it's ever going to have much levity to it. I'll put it that way.
Can we bury a barrel somewhere on the property filled with vodka?
The old poachine thing, don't you? About the old poachine distiller. Have any of you ever heard this story? That his wares were so wanted by everybody that when he got older and he couldn't farm on his own anymore, young man had come around and asked him about, if he needed any help on the farm, essentially, and that he'd work for poaching. And the old man basically looked at him and he said, "I've got 1 barrel of poaching and it's buried out there in that field. Go plow the field, you'll find the barrel." And the guy goes and he plows the field. And he comes back, there's no barrel, and he's like, "Barrel's not out there." And he goes, "Oh, it must be that other field over there."
I'd be into burying barrels. That'd be fun. I don't want to do
have,
digging, but
we do have a connection for getting, potentially getting, and I'm not gonna say the name, but potentially getting some whiskey into space, and potentially in the long run to Mars. That's a very legit thing that we are working on right now with someone I went to school with. So
I'll just take the moon one. I don't want to wait for it to go to Mars and back. You
gotta go to Mars with it, man. You gotta go to Mars with it. It's a one-way thing.
it's like the ocean whiskey, but
Jefferson's,
but better. Yeah, Jefferson's.
Yeah.
But
if
better.
I am going to Mars, I do want a barrel of whiskey to come with me. I'm just gonna put that out there right away before you load me onto the trip. Like I'll take one of these.
You need
in the
something
back.
to entertain yourself. That's a long trip.
Yeah, you're gonna need more than 1 barrel, because 1 barrel is like maybe 200 bottles, and if you're going to Mars, you're gonna get through those 200 bottles a lot quicker, I think, than you think.
Yeah, but can you imagine the Facebook videos of me drunk on Mars? I've never peed in space before. I'm just saying, and I'm sure that there's a whole different arch.
I'll probably get some late night phone call. Can we pot distill chartreuse on Mars?
I don't know why you couldn't. Listen, go buy a bunch of bottles of chartreuse and we'll distill chartreuse, because nobody's done that yet. So we'll redistill the whole thing. Then we'll put it in a barrel and we'll bury that.
There you go. We'll have the sequel to The Martian starring Alan Bishop.
Yeah.
We can't bury it by the
Just call it
swamp,
the Fat Martian.
because the beaver will use it.
Right.
That's awesome.
But no, on this, like, on the taste, it's sweet, and you get I get almost like a molasses cookie with like a little bit of sugar on it. And then not with the chocolate kind of pressed into it, but I was gonna say I am getting like a little bit of a chocolate note in there too. The nose is really fun. I was gonna say it's fun, and it's not like they were saying, it punches well below its weight. We make fun of this. If you're getting 50, 60, 65%, and you're in here going,
yeah,
right,
like it was
shoving your face in there.
By the time we get to the third video, we are a little loopy at that point, where you're like, well, I guess I was huffing fumes. I really forgot about that. It didn't factor into me. I was just having a good time. But no, you can really get in there without it being an issue. So this is really well done. So
it's really brilliant.
The goal with double pot still, try to keep it, make your cuts the right way, and that's the whole thing. It's all about the retention and concentration of those aromas and flavors of the grain, and balancing those with the wood, and it's probably heretical to say, but it's very much approaching bourbon making from a brandy maker's perspective. Is very much what it is. So.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to be clear, like, you guys keep saying you guys, and I want to be just letting you know that this is all the genius of Alan Bishop. This is it's a team effort as far as putting it out there, but that what's in that bottle and what you're tasting and what you're smelling and all of that is 100% the brainchild of our distiller.
Oh,
that label's sexy though.
Yeah,
it is sexy.
It is.
The Lee Sinclair label is fucking fire, dude. I'm just.
I saw that new one on Facebook today. It's a good looking label.
Yeah, that label in person and it's gorgeous on Facebook and Instagram too. But in person, it's beautiful, and I can't wait to. It's the same with with the Mattie Gladden. I can't wait until people actually get that Lee Sinclair bottled and bond in hand. Yeah, and I want to put this out there as a precursor. The Lee Sinclair bottled and bond that is about to roll out is actually the exact same batch of barrels as the 2-year-old that came out. So anybody that's got the 2-year-old, when you see how different that this is, it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
I just polished off a bottle of that 2-year-old not long ago.
Nice.
You got to make room on a shelf for it, you know?
Absolutely.
It's so much darker. So much darker.
Snickerdoodle cookie all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, that apple brandy, your Clifty apple brandy, holy crap, man, that is some really good stuff.
I bought a bottle of that on Friday, and it's been really hard for me to stay out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a huge Calvados fan for a while, but that, it's just so unique, and it's just so damn good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
like
a big deal for us.
I'm a fan for that now.
That's our distilling heritage here in Southern Indiana. You know, I'm the first in a long time, and now again there was one more. And now again the last of the Black Forest distillers in Southern Indiana, and that's a big part of our heritage, is making sure that style continues and lives. And there is a bottled and bond version of that coming probably next year. So we might do a single barrel of it at the distillery sometime soon. So.
Yeah.
And you guys have been bottling bottles like mad the last couple of weeks. It seems like that's all you guys have been doing, have been releasing. So what stuff do you actually have for sale now, at least at the distillery?
Yeah, so we have our all of our regulars, our 2-year Sinclair, the Weeder. We have, and then a lot of stuff that's tasting room only.
Right, and once that Sinclair, sorry to interrupt you, Jolee. Once that Sinclair and that Weeder is gone, they're gone. So if you want a 2-year-old Sinclair to be able to compare, to hold on to, plus the label's different, get it now. If you want a Weeder that's has the only purchased bourbon in it we ever bought, that we ever will buy, so long as I'm there, buy it now, because once it's gone, I'm not doing it again. It's all going to be bottled and bond from here forward. So
we didn't even use all of that sourced whiskey. We sold the rest of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
wow.
That's pretty interesting.
So we've got our Old Tom Gin, our Aquavit, we've got our Absinthe Blue. The most recent release is the Unpretentious, and then the Hoosier Apple Brandy. And then that is the most recent release, is the Unpretentious. There's 10 cases of that left. That was a tasting room only release, just to celebrate the reopening of the cafe and the tasting room after the COVID shutdown. And then everything that you've been seeing us bottle are single barrels, because our
my favorite part.
The single barrel. Oh,
I caught it and didn't spill anything. Miracle.
you broke number one.
That's gonna say. I hope number one made it.
No, that was a
It's like
coffee
one of the
cup.
worst
I didn't
sounds
hit
in
the bottle.
mankind.
That was a coffee cup.
I have a different label. We can just take it off and put a new one on and write number one on it. But yeah, everything that we've been bottling lately has been single barrels for accounts, which has been pretty cool. Once coronavirus hit, we thought, well, Kevin Rose deemed this the year of Spirits of French Lick. 2020 was, and then COVID hit, and we were like, wah, wah, wah. But crazy, it just took off, and we started getting all of these requests in for single barrels, and so we've got 2 going to Big Red Liquors sometime next week. Liquor King in Texas has taken quite a few. Sealbox took one. The Oasis Bar and Grill up in Indianapolis took a 4-year Lee Sinclair as well. Total Wine and Spirits will be getting a 4-year Lee Sinclair as well. When
Oasis actually has Lee Sinclair finished in Chardonnay. So if
that's
you're
right.
into finishes, that was one that I wish that we could have held on to at the distillery.
Yeah, that was delicious.
Good.
But yeah, so then next up is the Mattie Gladden. We'll be bottling that probably next week, and then getting that out in the next couple of weeks, and then the Lee Sinclair will follow that. So we've had a few delays due to COVID. Bottles were difficult to get for a little while. There was a real glass shortage, and it seemed like a lot of things were taking a long time, and that was within the United States. And a lot of that was due to shipping. The labels took a lot longer than we thought because the printer was working in shifts. And so it was an exercise in patience.
Also,
I don't have.
For anybody in or around Indiana, one of those two single barrels that is going to Big Red is actually a William Dalton weeded bourbon, 3-year-old. So it's a preview for those who will be interested in our weeded bottled and bond. That'll be 100% ours that we'll be coming out with in January. So you're getting it a little early if you can get a hold of a bottle of it. And it is at barrel proof, and I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head, but so it is overproof.
I think it was like 110.
I think you're right. It was right in there. So
yeah. But yeah. What does he say? The Hoosier Apple Brandy?
Is it there all the time, or is it seasonal?
It's there all the time, unless we're into, some years we produce less than other years. So it's there until it sells out, basically. So it is a pretty much all the time thing. The first year we had more of it than we will have the next coming years. And
it's a fall release.
Right. Okay. Right.
But we keep it until it sells out.
There's also a tequila barrel aged version of that we may start releasing some single barrels of. And then, like I said, we might even do a bottled and bond single barrel. That's something we should probably look at for fall, Jolee.
Yeah.
Because I keep forgetting that we have it again. So
it's awesome. It's delicious. It's delicious.
So nationally, as far as getting your stuff, Seal Box that's probably the safest bet for trying to get it in your state. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Blake has been amazing to us. He has been a huge supporter of Spirits of French Lick from the very beginning. He took the 2-year right away. He's got the aquavit and the absinthe and the gin as well. And I mean, he's purchased from us this entire time. He's on his second single barrel. But yeah, they've been great to us for sure. And they ship to 20 different states.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just opened up Spirit Hub, which delivers to all of Illinois. That I think we go live on Spirit Hub next week. So Illinois is one of the states that Sealbox does not ship to. So that worked out. We are with Show Me Beverages in Missouri, getting into Total Wine. In Kentucky, we're with Heritage Distribution and Johnson Brothers in Indiana. So,
and the guys at Liquor King in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth have been excellent. They've actually picked up, I think it's 8 or 9 single barrels now. Yeah. They don't have all of them yet, but they will this year. It'll have been 8 or 9 total.
Yeah.
The other thing that people can do to really help us out, because we're a small distillery, so we don't have a lot of incentive money to throw at distributors, etc. So the way that we've really grown so far has been by running our big damn mouths and getting people behind us. And so if you've got a liquor store chain in your state, or you have a friend that works for a distributor or is a distributor, hound them. Just hound them. Until
what's our stuff.
Going to do? Tell you to shut up and go on about your day? Just tell them that you want Spirits of French Lick, and maybe that something will come of it. I mean, that's how Texas happened. We had a guy that was from Indiana that worked for this Texas chain, and he picked up a bottle of Sinclair, took it back, and they fell in love with it. So
yeah.
I was going to say we have plenty of people, our friends down in Texas, that once they found out that was there after we did our first interview and stuff, they were like, oh, I'm like, well, it's down there, you can get it. And they're like 5-6 days later, like, oh, it's all gone. Like,
there's another one on its way there now.
Up and it was fucking gone again.
Yeah, it sold out. It sold out in less than a week, and there's another one on the road to them right now. Yep. So
and there's one right behind it as well. Those are both Lee Sinclair.
And then they have November and December new products.
Rye, buckwheat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Buckwheat sounds interesting. Is it all buckwheat?
So it's a buckwheat bourbon. And I apologize, I can't remember the mash bill off the top of my head. You guys might get a kick out of this name too. So that's going to be called the Morning Glory. That was the name of a tavern that was just north of Campbellsburg, Indiana, that actually was sort of the outlet for the 5 commercial distilleries that were in Cave River Valley, which is where Old Clifty was at. So
neat.
All right. So I got an idea to throw out to you real quick. I'm sipping on the apple brandy right now, and a minute ago I blended a little bit of the apple brandy with the Mattie Gladden.
Oh.
Apple brandy finished in Mattie Gladden barrels.
So there is an apple brandy and a rye in a Lee Sinclair barrel, and there will definitely be apple brandy in a rye whiskey barrel, and then I might be able to pull a Mattie barrel if I can hold it until this fall, or even transfer one. Jolee, remind me tomorrow, and I'll put that on the list because that would be a good idea.
Okay, I gotta write it down.
We're actually getting ready to transfer. I kept 2 barrels of Lee Sinclair bottled and bond from the original batch back, and I'm getting ready to transfer one of those into a Hive and Barrel mead barrel.
You guys, this stuff is fucking fire. It's so good.
You guys are
It's
playing
so
with
good.
stuff. We had the guys from Single Cask Nation on, and you guys are playing with stuff like the way they do, where it's like, oh, we have this, but then we finished it in this and did that, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
I just want to see how that turned out. Damn it!
Right, and those are all going to be one-offs. Like we have a Sazerac barrel, or a reverse basically a Sazerac barrel. So we did a rye into a absinthe barrel.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? If you have both of them, why would you not do that? So
I can see our friend at the Rock Cut Review. I can see him being like all over that.
right.
That's all his flavor profile. Like, you would love it.
I would love to be able to, and maybe in time. Right now we have so many projects, we really couldn't do it. But back to your apple and rye conversation, split brandies were a big thing in the South pre-Prohibition, and there's nobody making true split brandies commercially that I know of. So that's something we might look at in the future, and it'd be under a distilled spirit specialty. But basically, use an apple juice base and cook your mash into the apple juice, and then ferment it together. So
Wow.
See, there's too many things that it's too much fun to play with. I can see how you lose barrels now. Like, I don't know what happened to this stuff.
This is why I don't own my own distillery, because I'm not a businessman for sure.
I'm gonna play with this though, the apple brandy and the Mattie. I'm gonna get that over to Zach and see if he can come up with a cocktail.
Yeah, and like I said, remind me of it tomorrow, and I might be able to do a barrel transfer. So
Okay. Yeah, I wrote it down.
Sounds
Well.
really good.
I did was having on a different podcast. It was a political podcast, having a debate with another guy, and so he was sipping a Manhattan. I was sipping an old fashioned, and I added a splash of the brandy to the old fashioned, and it just took it to a whole freaking other level. So I'm already got ideas going with this stuff. But
You added what kind of brandy? The apple brandy?
the apple brandy, yeah.
To
I
an
had
old-fashioned?
I had an old fashioned I made with pinhook rye.
With a
from
rye?
the Castle and Key Distillery,
Okay.
and just simple orange bitters, bourbon, a little bit of sugar over ice, and then I added just a little splash of the apple brandy, and it was playing with the rye, and that was amazing. So that's what, when I pulled this out just now, I was like, well, rye and the brandy was good last time. Let's try it with the Mattie Gladden, and it just, holy crap, that was good.
Let's drink tomorrow for lunch, Alan.
It's called R&D. Research and
my
development.
liver heard you and it twitched.
It'll have to be Thursday. I'm actually working from home tomorrow. Sorry. So I'll be drinking for lunch and breakfast. Hey, I am.
I know.
But no, this is really, really good. I don't want to be understating it, but I also, I don't want to seem like I'm kissing your guys' ass too much when I'm saying stuff, because I don't want to be that guy either. But this,
You can. It's fine.
okay.
It smells like a Hoosier whorehouse.
Right?
It's whole
Hashtag
forward.
Hoosier whorehouse.
That's right. Or forward.
There is.
Or as we were told last night, it smells like God's vagina.
That's right.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. If I ever
love
have to
that.
write a resume, that's going on there.
Yeah.
That you smell like God's vagina?
That Mattie Gladden does.
Oh.
Develop the products.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I do at the end of the glass, like when it's empty, apple pie, like 100%.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll give this is my straight, honest assessment right here. This is now 2 weeks in a row. I had a whiskey last week that I said basically was going into my top 5 for whiskey of the year. This just jumped right into that category for me.
Hell yeah.
Whoa!
It's as it has spent time in the glass, the layers of complexity that have unfolded in this are just freaking remarkable.
Awesome.
It's just that good.
Thank you.
For me, in my palate, what I like, this is just hitting a home run grand slam. So
I'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Along the same lines for me, the one I've been blown away by so far this year was the Old 55 Bottle and Bond. And matter of fact, I got it right. This guy right here.
Nice.
And honestly, I don't know where I'm going from now. The Unpretentious is absolutely amazing. And honestly, this Mattie Gladden, I'm just falling in love with it. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good company.
So, yeah.
Good company.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We're happy to share a stage with Old 55. We like them.
Fruits.
Yep, Jason Fruits. We love that dude, and we like what they're doing up there. And I love that guy's whiskey. I can't keep it in the house. Like my husband and I just drink the shit out of it. It's so good.
We can't be the only distillery in Indiana on the
right.
craft side of things doing cool stuff. There's got to be 3 or 4 of us eventually, in order for the whole state to be taken seriously. So
That's one of the
having
things. Yeah, that's one of the things that I try and do. Like you see the Indiana Bourbon, the Indiana Bourbon Trail or the Indiana Bourbon Instagram account is so supportive of other distilleries. And yes, perfect. I have one of those too. And I just love that. I love seeing everybody come together. And the hashtag Drink Indiana, I think that it's a brewer's hashtag, but I'm overtaking it. I think it can be for wineries. It can be for breweries. It can be for distilleries. Because our state is putting out some phenomenal products on every single end there. And yeah, competition is good, right? It's good for business, and it keeps you on your toes. And it's nice to talk to those other businesses and see what they're doing. And especially over COVID, it was nice to talk to other distilleries to see where they were at and what they were doing and how they were handling this and what were they doing as far as sanitizer and things like that.
I can't wait to see what Brian Smith from Hard Truth rolls out with too.
Oh, I'm so excited about them.
I'm real excited about them.
They've done some really, really good stuff, and I know they're itching to release their bourbon. It's such a hard waiting game to play. But that coconut rum that they have out, man.
it's very good.
Oh my God, it's so good. It tastes like
It's
candy.
really good.
It's so good.
I'm also, what I just thought of, if I ever do have to write a resume, I'm actually going to start it with, not to toot my own horn, but I did
Not to
name a
toot your
whiskey
own
after a
horn?
whore. I did name a whiskey after a whore one time. Reasons why you should hire me.
Do you think that would be a reason, like, for you to get into heaven too? Like,
I'm already
you
fucking
get to your
secured
end.
on that. Listen, pot still distillers are hard to come by. You can pretty much do anything, and Jesus and God are good to party down with that. It's okay.
And God's like, tell me what you did in life, and you were like, I named a whiskey after a whore.
That's right.
You
Let's
get
talk
waved
horse.
around.
Here she is.
You get waved
She's
around
right
the
here.
gates. You don't go through the gates.
Whore.
You get pulled around the
Rahab's in the
side.
lineage. You're good, man.
Right?
Yeah.
They just open right up for you.
Mm.
Yep, it's like that old Bill Hicks thing too. When you get there, you got a cigarette lit and St. Peter's standing there, and come on in. Oh, heaven is smoking. Yeah, these are not clouds. This is cigarette smoke. Come on in.
Right? The crap table is right over that way.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I always tell Alan, I was like, you're going to hell. I'll see you there. Let's start a distillery.
Yes.
Wait, where was that one city in your state, Ben, that you said it was like Satan's armpit? What
Columbia,
is the city?
the capital.
Columbia? Oh. This brought me an idea. Like, it sounds like you can
Capital.
move over here and maybe accomplish 2 things at once. It doesn't sound like I want to live there, but, that's fine.
Right. I always make the joke about well, it's not really a joke, but about the history of French Lick and how dark it is there. And there's kind of an irony to that whole thing too, that it's sulfur springs, and sulfur springs are associated with the underworld, and the whole Pluto water thing, that the statue and the whole deal, and it just plays into what we do that much more. So you couldn't pick a better
Cloven hooves.
off the fucking beaten path place to have a distillery that plays into some of that stuff for sure. So
Yep.
Love it.
True.
Well,
That's also how Jolee survives because no one notices the sulfur smell.
That's why I wear. You never see me in open-toed shoes because I just gotta hide my hooves all the time.
I did see her in the sunlight for about 10 minutes today, and she's like, "I gotta go inside."
No, we're sitting out back talking, and like I'm sitting there and I'm frying, and he looks over and he goes, "Just a question, and I'm not trying to be rude, but how long can you stay in the sun before you start to burn?" And I was like, "Well, I was gonna be honest. Like literally the next word out of my mouth was gonna be, we got to go inside. I'm burning."
Fucking day walkers.
That's right.
I posted this Instagram picture on my account like last week, and I filtered it up, and it was like so many filters, and I posted it, and in the end, I was like, I look really tan. So just so everyone knows, I'm not. Yeah, white and red hair.
I've had that where I've gone outside and I felt like I was gonna burst into flames at one point. Where we were down when I was down in Texas most recently. It was like 115 out, and I did not react well. Like I thought I'd been okay, and by the time we got off the bus and we're drinking on the bus, before the event I was already like overheated and just done. I was 14 different distilleries. I didn't get to try a single thing. I just had water and hung out by its picnic table.
Right. People always say, well, it's a dry heat. Well, it can be a dry heat, but 115 degrees is 115 degrees.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I'm also still getting sunburned in dry heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Texas still is not dry heat either, though.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, guys.
No, that's what I was going to say. We've had you here for about an hour and a half. I feel like we've eaten up enough of your life this evening. But we appreciate you guys coming on and doing this release of this giveaway.
Yeah, man.
I was going to say, I know that Beth was saying she's going to come on and leave comments about what she thought about it. She just didn't get it yesterday because she wasn't home, and all the lovely delivery people and how they work. But she'll be on. She'll leave her thoughts on it, and she was pretty excited about getting a bottle and stuff too. So we can't thank you guys enough for working with us to give people a chance.
Thank you. We'll have to do this again for Lee Sinclair.
We will totally be behind that. We're starting to lean.
Just work the wrestling show into Lee Sinclair.
Yeah.
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 As long as we have
up with that one.
Yeah, as long as we have a Spanish announcers table to throw somebody through, that's all we need.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm also really happy that we've gotten to an hour and 32 minutes, and there have been no Larry Bird mentions.
You just ruined it.
I told just now.
I mean, it's over now. So, and I was the one that brought it up, so it's fine. I just wanted to say I was really excited about it. I thought of you guys today, actually, because this was going on tonight, and I get like Google alerts for French Lick, and today there was a big Google alert, something about Larry Bird, and so I was like, it's fitting that I get this into my email box, and I'm on the Whiskey Den podcast tonight.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now you said it, and it can't. Before we get off, it can't go without. You got to at least say Johnny Cougar at least one time.
That's
say
right.
Larry Bird. You got to
Larry
throw Johnny
Bird,
Cougar in there.
Johnny Cougar.
So it's part of me where
I drive by his his practice field every day in Bloomington.
There you go.
So.
I was gonna say if you guys couldn't see who was in the waiting room, I was so gonna be like, oh, and our number 3 winner of the giveaway, Larry Bird, and just like bring on like this picture, because you can bring up another version of like a video from my house and just have it be like Larry Bird picture, like, and he's won, and I'm like, no, you'll see that, and then you'll start questioning before I do shit, Jolie. That's not good. She'd be like, you sit in the private chat, I'd be like, put that shit away,
We would just play along with it. We'd be like, you know what Larry Bird doesn't have? Unpretentious.
But Sean does.
That's right.
Look at all of these pale friends in the comments. White like rice in milk, in a styrofoam cup on a paper plate with sour cream in a snowstorm next to a polar bear. Brother, I feel you. So white.
Fucking sunburn.
That's what was happening today.
Have to do a fucking vitamin D infused whiskey. We'll call it Daywalker. It'll be like the cousin of Unpretentious.
SPF 6000.
Yeah, it comes with a bottle of SPF. That's what hangs off the side instead of a hang tag. It's like
Tasting
one of those
notes on the side won't fix it, but it'll make you forget about it for a little while.
for a little while until you take a shower.
It has this real coconut smell to it. I don't know what's going on.
Right? Banana boat. That's what we're going to call it.
But like I said, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. We always have a blast, and anytime you ever want to do that, that's part of what I think we're working with some other distillers is doing more. As something comes out, we'll get a bottle and we'll try to get it out to as many people as we can, and have people come on. And that way, it's not just us tasting it; it's people in the community getting to try stuff rather than just us. I mean, I guess if someone's gonna have to, I guess it'll be us. But if we
take one for the team,
take one for the team. But
you guys are so nice.
But if we could share it, it's good to let everyone else kind of know what they're missing, or if it's a different part of the country, it's good to taste something we don't normally get to do. And
it's good for us too, to get some product reviews and hear, what people think of it. And as a distiller, it's good to hear those things and feel like it's headed on the right track and people are sort of getting what we're headed for. So,
we talked to you before we did our interview with Robert from Iron Root, but he was the one who said you're a corn whisperer. He goes, I'm into corn. Alan's a corn whisperer, and we all took note well, we talked to him already, and we're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, who is 2 steps ahead of you, Robert? That's very interesting to us.
Robert doesn't give himself enough credit. Robert is doing some damn cool stuff, and as a distiller, I'm there are certainly times where, and there's a very short list of people that I'm very jealous of, and Robert is one of them. I've threatened that if I come out there, I'm not leaving. I'm going to live in the shed behind the distillery.
Jen says it all the time. All the time.
It's either there or I'm moving to the Swiss Alps and making absinthe, guys. One of the two.
And essential oils.
Now,
are there 2 different stills for that, or do you have to,
Or potentially Romania, because it's the only country where you can get licensed to distill and hunt Strega at the same time.
Travel.
Nice.
No, that's our deal. Alan moves to the Swiss Alps. I will represent him. We will communicate via carrier pigeon, and I will work for Essential Oils.
Be awesome hand-drawn labels. Just going to work the nudist colony thing right in there.
Oh God!
Everything that makes you feel safe about get someone a bottle when it's like handwritten. Like had Mattie Gladden been like a handwritten bottle, you're like
Right.
I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued by it, but I am a little bit nervous. I'm
going to put it at just a high enough elevation, too, that as I get drunk and I pee off the side of my mountain, it'll be along the trail where you have to come up to the distillery and you'll be like, oh, that's a pretty yellow waterfall. It's not a waterfall.
Or you're just going to climb and be like, it smells like piss up here.
That's Art Deco is what that is.
Yeah. Art Deco.
Postmodernism at its finest.
There's 150 feet here. That's really something's wrong with the ground. It's all dead.
Right? I thought the Swiss was supposed to be beautiful.
It's distillery runoff.
And why does it smell like peppermint? What's going on with that?
There's a weird bread note in everything.
My God.
Shane, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. We appreciate you participating, letting you know there's plenty of things coming up to do that again. And everyone out there, there's plenty more things in the next couple of weeks coming out that we'll be doing that with. Let's see if I can remember one. The guys from Last Lake Single Cask Nation said they were going to do something like that with a 24-year-old Kentucky whiskey, but we're not allowed to know where that came from. But there may have been a fire there at the distillery at one point.
Surely not.
Could have been. And I think In September, we're also doing that with MGP. We're going to have them on, and we're going to go through
Awesome.
the Remus and the Rossvilles. We're going to give away of that too, and a couple other ones. So
Rossville is awesome.
And
You should see if they'll send you a sample of their single malt. It's only a couple years old, as far as I know, but they did do a single malt.
I will ask Amanda about that.
That's interesting.
We'll find out because we haven't gotten those yet, but we will definitely find out about that. But yeah,
The worst they can say is no.
yeah,
Right.
And you're always surprised when people say yes. I just want to. It's just like, oh, yeah, thank you for helping. We were not prepared for that.
Awesome. Sean, next time you come to the distillery, you need to call me, okay?
Will do.
Call and let me know
Absolutely.
you're coming.
Excellent.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Well, to everyone in the chat, remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. So cheers, everyone. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Aces.
Cheers.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Some more.